On April 30th, 2019, Paramount released the first public trailer for their movie adaptation of Sonic the Hedgehog. While watching that initial trailer, I was excited. My initial reaction was, this is the perfect mix of exactly what I want, and this is the furthest thing from what I want, and I hope it blends together to make one gigantic dumpster fire that'll become my movie of the year. Now that the Transformers series is giving off diminishing returns, Paramount has been trying to find another property to fill that Optimus Prime-shaped hole in their wallets. The studio has been adapting kids' franchises for a while now, and usually without regard for how the fans would react. In fact, Paramount even said that they knew the original Sonic design would create controversy, but thought it would appeal to a wider audience outside of fans. When I heard that Paramount had the rights to Sonic the Hedgehog, I knew he was in the wrong hands, and I was so excited to see this thing fail. Well, it's been a long road since that initial trailer. From weird human-toothed Sonic to muscly leg posters to a redesign that bankrupted an animation studio, we finally got the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and I am disappointed? I'm not gonna stand here and say that Sonic the Hedgehog was a terrible movie. But I'm also not gonna say that it was a great movie either, and that's the part that disappointed me the most, because I really wanted this to become either or. The only thing I didn't want this movie to be was average, and that is sadly what we got. Also, just a heads up, I am going to be spoiling the movie, so if you do want to go in blind, don't watch this, but I will say that the story is very predictable, and it's something that you can probably guess by watching the first trailer or so, watch at your own risk. Sonic the Hedgehog is just your generic kids movie that happens to really understand how to deliver fan service for people who love this blue goofball. This is a really fun Sonic the Hedgehog adventure wrapped within a poorly written kids movie with product placement that even the Transformers think is excessive.
Is your car? Huh?
Honestly, the product placement was the first thing I noticed about the movie, and I was really sad that it kept it going until the very end. When we first get introduced to James Marsden's character, we quickly learn everything about him. We learn that he's a well-known cop in town, and that he's transferring to San Francisco for a change in his life, and is currently looking for apartments thanks to Zillow.com. The ad was an introduction to our main character. I really want to talk about the egregious product placement this movie had, because of all the things that could ruin Sonic the Hedgehog, I didn't think advertisements would be the thing. So much of this movie was just an ad. Like, not even a subtle ad. I probably could have thrown a few bucks at Paramount and they would have given me some screen time. YouTube spent a few months on fire because the FTC was afraid of people advertising to kids. But it's okay that this movie was giving a handjob to any product with a marketing budget? I didn't know it was possible to force Olive Garden down your throat that much. The problem wasn't that this movie had product placement. Tons of movies have product placement. The problem was how transparent it was just selling the thing to you. Sonic just looked at a phone and saw the Olive Garden app, and then they made sure to drop the slogan for it too. The movie even ends with him getting a gift card and talking about the never-ending pasta bowls. It's not a joke anymore. It's a lazy ad. They also ruined what could have been one of the best scenes in Sonic the Hedgehog history. If you give me a scene where Sonic the Hedgehog sneaks into a bar, I want to see him get drunk as shit. As much as I wanted that, I knew I wasn't getting it because of the rating of the movie, but don't insult me by having him order a fucking Mellow Yellow. What bar even carries Mellow Yellow? Make the ad at least make sense to the movie, Coca-Cola Company. Give Sonic a Jack and Coke, you cowards. The egregious product placement was so bad that it actively hindered my enjoyment of the film. It showed me that this movie wasn't made with the intention of making an enjoyable movie. It was a brand that would make a lot of money regardless of the quality that they put into it. That's why this shit exists. Usually in a bad movie, this is the kind of thing that I would love to see, but the problem was, in some ways, the movie actually did work. A movie getting reshoots is a normal practice in the film industry and can sometimes fix problems that occurred during the original production. The only thing wrong with reshoots is when they try to drastically change what the original intent of the film was, such as with Justice League. It seems like the film's budget for reshoots went into redesigning and reanimating stuff with Sonic. I have a feeling that since they couldn't redo anything they shot, they did everything they could to make the Sonic stuff work. It is a lot easier and cheaper to animate Sonic and get Ben Schwartz back in a recording booth than it is to get your cast, a crew, and a location together for reshoots, and they already proved that they had no idea how to do Sonic in this first trailer. I've heard the conspiracy theory that the first trailer was bad on purpose to get a discussion going about the film, But I honestly do think that that first trailer was indicative of what the Sonic the Hedgehog movie was supposed to be. You don't go from giving us a trailer with Gangster's Paradise, with Sonic as this abomination saying he has to save the planet and whatnot, to giving us Sonic running around a perfectly rendered green hill zone to the main theme of Sonic Mania, with echidnas and Easter eggs in the animation that only hardcore Sonic fans would be able to understand. Tyson Hesse was brought in for the redesign of Sonic, and after watching some of the animations he's done for the franchise in the past, I can't help but feel that he also had a hand in fixing some dialogue and animation to make it appeal to the more hardcore fans. That is the only logical excuse I can find for a Sonic drawing being in a movie where James Marsden tells Dr. Robotnik he was breastfed. The rest of the movie is so generic and ad-filled that I couldn't help but start tuning out whenever the movie wanted to go back to being a generic kids flick. And that's what I mean when I say I was disappointed, because half a good movie and half a bad movie just makes a boring movie. There isn't enough bad to make it a fun movie to watch drunk with a bunch of friends like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but not good enough to fully stand on its own as a movie I would ever want to watch again. Allow me to introduce to you what I call the parabola of quality. This graph shows off how good a movie is compared to how enjoyable it is. When a movie is great and stands on its own, you get enjoyment from the art of cinema. The plot twists, the emotional performances, you get invested in every part of it, and that is what drives you to keep watching. But on the other side of the spectrum, you get the worst of the worst. The stuff that is so bad, the stuff that is so baffling that as you're watching it, you can't help but wonder how it got so far without anyone saying anything. But you enjoy it because it is so terrible. You tell everyone to watch it because it's so unbelievably bad that you marvel at its own existence. When I first saw old movie Sonic, I knew it was going to be something right here, and we were gonna have something to laugh at for years to come. But with this redesign, we just sort of forced him into the middle. I love this little guy. It feels like Ben Schwartz was born to play this guy. The Hedgehog is very different from the various incarnations we've seen over the years. Rather than the cooler, more relaxed Hedgehog that loves adventures we know, we have a wisecracking doofus who keeps quipping and never shuts up. Movie Sonic is if Bubsy was actually enjoyable. The tragic backstory, the isolation, it makes sense why Sonic never shuts up. We feel for him, we know he's young, and we just want what's best for the guy. Him being so darn cute also helps. There is so much physical comedy that they do with him. Like I said, they nailed it. This is a younger Sonic's personality. I love this.
Why? Why does equipping Sonic work, but I am annoying?
Because you don't have a personality outside of it. I'm doing this because I know someone will call me out on this if I don't address it now. There's no reason to deny it. These two are very similar. But what makes this one work and this one a lazy abomination is 100% the character development. None of the Bubsy games give context to Bubsy as a character. He's just the annoying guy at the frat party that you want to leave you alone. The one that just wants attention and doesn't realize when he has gone too far. With Sonic, it's a coping mechanism. He's lived the last 10 years in isolation. He learned everything about how to interact with people from movies he watched from outside a window and reading comic books. Of course he quips constantly. This is how he learned to interact with people. I'm not saying that this is the best way to write a character. It isn't even the best way to write Sonic. But at least it makes sense to his personality and how this movie wants to portray him. Bubsy is just that, with no context to anything about him. He just loves being annoying for the sake of being annoying. He has no character or personality outside of quips, whereas Sonic has a character and motivation outside of pop culture references. And Sonic also has a bunch of great actors to bounce off of, but none of them compare to the majesty that was Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. Jim Carrey is giving it his all for this movie of all things. He manages to be as energetic as Ace Ventura while also bringing a terrifying edge to this character. I also like that all of his robots kept a sort of egg motif. They're all white and in a bit of an oval, and that was just a nice touch. The only thing I think holds him back is his sidekick character. There are times his character works as a nice foil to Carrey, but other times...
The doctor thinks you're basic.
There were times where Carrey needed to chew the scenery, but the scene then goes to him for the punchline and it doesn't work. But there are also times where the movie does that and it works perfectly, so it's very hit or miss until Robotnik is solely interacting with Sonic, where they let Jim Carrey throw caution to the wind and becomes exactly the kind of villain this movie needed. And that's the point I've been trying to make this whole time. When it's allowed to be a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, it's great. Sonic and his friend hanging out at a bar? So much fun. The action scenes with Sonic doing Sonic things? Awesome. The intro in Green Hill Zone? Incredible. The movie had people who knew what makes Sonic a fun character working on it, and they wanted to make sure that the love that they had for their characters reflected in it. But again, all of that is just with the Sonic stuff. Like I said earlier, Paramount has a tendency to not care about source material at all when making adaptations. They just didn't think Sonic fans would be, well, Sonic fans. The parts of the movie that aren't Sonic the Hedgehog are exactly what I expected. The movie really is just your basic kids movie. Every single one of these CGI characters goes on an adventure with a human. Movies all have the exact same problems on what holds them back. They are movies with very little budget, so everything goes into the star power and the one CGI character. So because they can't afford to do anything else, the movie can't do anything super exciting outside of the big scenes they needed the budget for. The movie looks so flat and uninspired a majority of the time. Compare that to how stylized most scenes of Detective Pikachu look. Not only does it help fix any problems that you have with the animation, but it also makes the film itself look more interesting. There is no interesting lighting or shot direction in Sonic the Hedgehog. It looks flat, nothing is special within it, and that is fine, but the movie wasn't interesting enough to keep you invested in it. The tone of the film feels very similar to Paramount's last big children's endeavor, Dora and the Lost City of Gold. The jokes in the story feel just as childish as Dora at times, but where that kind of tone works for Dora, it does not work for Sonic. When this movie isn't an adventure, it's boring. James Marsden's cop friend was a drag to see on screen because he just didn't feel like he was in the right movie. Same with almost every character that isn't James Marsden or Carrie. They all feel like they do nothing but spit out product placement for whatever the next scene needs, and then they move back onto Sonic. The story itself is also one of the most predictable things you've ever seen. You have seen this movie before. After the end of Act 1, you can predict the entire movie. It never does anything interesting or unexpected. Except for this. I don't think anybody expected this. When I saw Sonic floss, I actually got a little disappointed. Not because of, well, the obvious. I was disappointed because before we got this redesign, I think this movie was going to be that disaster of a movie that I truly wanted. The main reason Sonic works is because he is so cute. He is a character that you want to see succeed. The scene on the baseball field works because you feel sorry for the guy. And part of that is how expressive this model and character is. He's designed to be like a cartoon character, and the freedom that gives lets him be super expressive. They can animate him in unrealistic ways and get a wider range of emotion. Now pretend that rather than this cutie, we got this guy doing that same scene. This one looks way too real. His facial expressions are similar to a human, so any emotion this guy has to show off is how realistically they can animate him, and with the budget they had, it would not end up looking good. So I don't think we would have been able to relate to Sonic nearly as much if the design wasn't changed, and I think it would have ultimately created a problem for the movie. The cute quips he has wouldn't be endearing, it would be creepy. I tell you, this adorable good boy watches Keanu Reeves movies through your window, you feel bad that he can't have any friends. I tell you, it's this guy, you call 911. If you don't believe me on how much this redesign saved this movie, let's look at that scene where James Marsden shoots Sonic. Still can't believe that is a sentence I get to say. In this part of the movie, Sonic is discovered and he is panicking about what he has to do next. It was very hard to tell what emotion Sonic was supposed to have in this scene. He seemingly goes from surprised to awkward to scared. What he's supposed to be feeling isn't being conveyed to us. But in the final product, the entire time, you get this sense of worry in every action. He has no idea what he's doing, and getting discovered is the literal worst thing that could happen to him right now. By complaining about the original design, we brought the Sonic the Hedgehog movie kicking and screaming to mediocrity. I think a lot less of the movie was redone than people think. There was a scene where a bomb was stuck to Sonic's glove, and no matter what he tried to do, he couldn't get it off. This scene was so bad because it just made everyone look like a big idiot. But this was supposed to be the climax of the action scene. It was supposed to be this big moment. But it's stupid because no one thinks about just taking off the goddamn glove. But this scene would make a lot more sense if it had the old Sonic design. That model didn't have gloves, meaning that the bomb would have actually been stuck to his hand. The only thing I think was redone were scenes that had CGI characters like the beginning. That is why Green Hill Zone looks so perfect, but Sonic can't get a bomb off his glove. They gave us glimpses of the exact movie we wanted, but they were forced to put it in a shitty Studios Kids film that Paramount thought they could shit out to make a quick buck. So what you get is this mixture of stuff that works amazingly well with stuff that makes no sense whatsoever. You can tell what stuff they animated after consulting people passionate about Sonic and what was supposed to be in the original movie. For example, the small glimpses we see of the other Sonic characters seem to be absolutely spot on. Longclaw looks like something I expected as an original creation to the movie, but the echidnas look exactly like the Knuckles tribe from Sonic Adventure. Same with Tails at the end of the movie. Tails looks absolutely perfect, closer to the games than even the redesigned Sonic. When I saw how beautiful he was, I smiled. I had a light in me that I wasn't expecting for the whole movie. It was the same light I had while watching Dragon Ball Super Broly and seeing my childhood heroes done with an exceptionally high budget. Sonic himself went through so many people before getting approved. A popular quote I saw from someone who worked on the visual effects was, "The animators only followed the producer's wishes and had no say in the design. Neither did the design team." Just think about how fucking crazy that is. The design team didn't have a say on Sonic's look. Paramount executives did. Paramount knew that fans wouldn't like this design, but they went with it anyway because it worked out twice for them already. So even this redesign still has elements of that original look to make the producers happy. Compare that to Tails, who the executives probably don't even know exists at all. He was perfect. His voice actress that played him in the games plays him in the movie. He looked as close to Tails as Detective Pikachu was to the cartoons. I'm actually really excited for a sequel because now they can go into it with full knowledge that what people want is an extremely faithful adaptation. A quest for the Chaos Emeralds with Sonic and Tails against Robotnik, now looking like the Eggman we know and love. Sonic the Hedgehog is not a bad movie by any means, but it is proving what I did say in my Detective Pikachu review. Studios are learning that staying faithful to a video game property is what makes your money back, as long as you make a good movie to go along with it. Warcraft was extremely faithful to the source material, but it was so bad that nobody wants to see that story continue. Detective Pikachu was extremely faithful as well, but it was also a good movie. While I don't think Sonic the Hedgehog is nearly as good as Detective Pikachu, I don't think we can add it to the pile of terrible video game movies. It is a good movie, it's just not a memorable one. There's just not enough of what makes Sonic the Hedgehog to make this film stand out from other kids' movies that are released or have a similar premise. But that's just my opinion, and I am extremely excited to see what other people think of this movie as well. So please, leave a comment down below or join my Discord so we can get a conversation going. And if you want to see my thoughts on other Sonic the Hedgehog media, then please click this playlist right over here. And why not subscribe so you know whenever I post a new video. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time. Should I do the Sonic finger whack? This is stupid.